Well, we covered TikTok a lot on this show, right? And we've been talking a lot about the role the platform is playing in this year's election. For example, how it's educating young voters on both sides of the political spectrum about each candidate. There's a new trend, though, racking up views. Some young voters are posting videos joking about canceling out a partner or family member's vote by voting for the opposite candidate. It's one way they're trying to deal with what is otherwise a very tight and contentious presidential race. NBC News youth and internet culture reporter Callan Rosenblatt joins us with more on this. Callan, good morning. So TikTok has been this big source of political content for young voters in this election. And again, on both sides of the aisle, you can find so much political content on this app. But we do want to point out, like, no vote actually cancels out another vote technically. So how did this get started and what are these videos saying?
Yeah, Savannah, good morning. Canceling out another person's vote, not necessarily a new concept. I think this has been a running joke for many elections. But as more young people, are now eligible to vote, I think we're seeing this sort of humor explode on the app, mostly because of how contentious and how much tension there is around this race. It's kind of been a way to sort of puncture that tension with a little bit of tongue-in-cheek humor. Now, as you can see, some people are saying, I'm canceling out my dad's vote. I'm canceling out, my brother's vote. And some people are even joking, well, I don't have anyone to cancel out in my life, so I'm canceling out someone's dad somewhere. So really, it's mostly, I think, about, injecting a little bit of humor into the election. And as you said, no vote cancels out another. I mean, that's the whole point of elections, right, is whoever gets the most votes cancels out the other candidate. So it's really, to me, a way for these young people and people of all ages who use TikTok to inject a little bit of humor and a little bit of levity into a moment where there is a lot of tension around this race.
There is a lot of tension, Callan, and we've been doing these NBC News Stay Tuned Gen Z polls. I just am so happy that we did this because I felt that they were really revealing. Take a look right now on your screen. This is a pretty big stat out of it. 6 out of 10 Gen Z voters who said they plan to vote for Harris said that if a friend planned to vote for Trump, it would strain their friendship. This is so interesting to me because there was also a poll that came out yesterday from Axios that also said that Gen Z is the generation that lies the most about who they're voting for. That kind of feels related, right? Like, I'm not going to tell my friend I'm voting for Trump, or I'm not going to tell my friend I'm voting for Harris. Who are we seeing more differences between? Is it kids and their parents? I know a lot of times this poll revealed that there's the same political views within a house, or at least with one parent. Or is this tension with friends and romantic partners? What are you seeing online?
Yeah, everything I've seen is anecdotal, so it's not hard data. But a lot of what I've seen is mostly young women or, women who are millennials, Gen Z, who are sort of saying, I'm voting differently than a partner or a father. And in some cases, the young women that I spoke with said they didn't want to tell me, who they were voting for because they didn't even want to reveal it to me. So I think we're seeing this trend sort of mostly impact young women and their partners or their fathers. That seems to be the key demographic here. But again, that's anecdotal evidence. It's hard to know exactly who is planning to, quote unquote, cancel someone else's vote.
Well, and that's interesting because it sounds like what you just said with young women and fathers, depending on their relationship partners, it seems like it gets at that gender gap, which is also, we're heavily seeing that come out in pretty much every poll across the board. Callan, I also know that these videos canceling this whole concept, canceling out a vote, there's also this opposite effect, which gets at what we were just talking about. And I mentioned in this poll, we saw how many young people have the same political views as their parents, but where people are posting about how they're grateful that, within their home, they had the same political views or with their partner or with their friend. What are you kind of like seeing more of? Like, did you notice if one of these trends is getting more posts than the other, what the sentiment mostly is between canceling out or this gratitude about having the same views?
Well, what was interesting is before early voting started, I saw a lot of content that said, I'm canceling out so-and-so's vote. As early voting has begun, I'm now seeing a huge influx of content that shows partners saying that, I'm so grateful that my partner voted the same way that I did, or saying something to the effect of like, see, we can have a household with the same political beliefs, or, so and so, like, for example, I have a husband who's voting for Harris, and there's men who are, still out there voting for women's rights and who consider themselves feminists. So we are seeing, actually, now that early voting has started, an influx of people sort of celebrating the fact that their partners are voting for the same person that they are. But prior to early voting, it was a lot about, this duality of like canceling out one another's vote. And now there's this sort of celebration, as I mentioned, with, some of these partners that, they're voting for the same candidate, which is an interesting shift over time.
Absolutely. Callan, also, just so you know, there's a gorgeous sunrise going on over your shoulder. Go check it out. Thank you very much. Really interesting stuff. TikTok's so important in this election. We'll keep talking about it. We know you'll keep your eyes on it through next week for us.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.